Hi everyone, welcome to another week of We Mean Business, and I am very excited to say that joining me on this week's show of We Mean Business is the wonderful Kate Evans. Hi!
Hi Chanelle, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Very well, thank you, very well.
Good, we've got to talk about the wallpaper in the background. Tell us about that.
This is original 1960s. So we bought a project house, and this is some of the remnants. But unfortunately, this will be its only showing as it's getting plastered over tomorrow.
I'm so impressed that it's original. Like, that really has blown my mind that it is still there.
And we had original curtains in here, bright orange, and we had original brown pattern carpet as well. So the whole house was wonderfully 60s.
Wow, yeah, that's impressive. That is very impressive. Okay, so for anyone that doesn't know Kate, she is a career changer and she is changing into financial planning and is currently taking the CII exams to become diploma qualified. So, Kate, can you tell us why financial planning was a career you were drawn to?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Kind of my whole career change feels like a bit of a marathon in the sense it's taken quite a long time to do. And I suppose the first layer of that was me really not, I suppose, enjoying, for want of a better phrase, the career I was in. I spent quite a lot of time really trying to understand a bit more about me, what made me tick, my values, what I wanted out of life. And so at the back end of last year, I had this nice list compiled of all the stuff that I wanted to do, and none of it really was what I was doing. So at the same time, myself and my other half, Richard, we'd been looking to get a financial planner. And so ended up with what now feels like a bit of a celebrity planner in Tom Innovation Finance. So we've been really fortunate to see the fantastic side of what financial planning can bring. Um, and so I kind of found out early this year that I was being made redundant. And we're just randomly having a yearly review with Tom. And I'd kind of been going, well, this is all the stuff that I want to be doing in my career. And I, as a client, appreciate that this is all the stuff that you're giving me and Richard. So why can't I do financial planning, or could I do financial planning? And he was like, yeah, why not? And so that was the seed that was sown, and here I am near enough 12 weeks later on that journey.
Amazing. I love that. And you obviously mentioned that you looked at what he was doing and you were like, I like that, I could do that. So what was it that he was doing? What were the attributes of his sort of role and what he gave you that made you think maybe this is for me?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I say we, both myself and Richard, we kind of approached different financial planners in the first instance, and I'd probably say they were more what I'd now call traditional advisors. So very much here, have some, give us your money, we'll sort your pensions out. And both Richard and I kind of have done procurement as a living, and we're a bit like, this doesn't feel like great service. I'm just handing over some money in the hope that my other pot of money grows. And so kind of do a lot of running and a lot of cycling. So I decided to listen to a shed load of podcasts. And my favourite one out of them all was the financial well-being one. So I got to listen to kind of Tom talk about that on that podcast. And so when we got in touch to understand what service was offered, I think it was more that kind of holistic approach, in the sense that you talk about your health, your mental well-being, your physical well-being, but this really felt kind of like that financial well-being of what do you want to get out of life, where do you both want to go, like when do you want to retire, all those things, but really kind of understanding us as a couple. So it was that really nice kind of holistic overview of us as a kind of, yeah, as I say, as a couple and what we wanted to get out of life. So it was a kind of nice, it gave that nice feeling of actually I'm investing in myself here by getting somebody to understand me and where we want to go to.
Yeah, amazing. I totally get that. They sort of become your friend, don't they? It's that whole thing. It's not just you hand over your money and they're off. It's just everything.
Yeah, and I think he was the kind of the last push for me to change career, because he'd been going for probably about 18 months that we've been seeing him. It's like, Kate, every time we meet, you say you don't enjoy your job. Your financial plan says you could do something different. And it wasn't that was the thing that made me change. That just gave me that factor to go, actually, the plan says I can. Financially, we'll be okay. Screw it, why not?
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. If you can, and like you said, you weren't happy, it's so important. And we've got to talk about the fact you've now passed your first RO exam, which is amazing. Congratulations. That's so exciting. How did you find it without sort of any experience in finance?
Yeah, so I did RO1 and passed that, as you say, last Thursday. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't the most riveting of topics. But I suppose in that sense, it was okay because it was just felt like a memory test. I could talk to you about now about the PRA, the FCA, etc., etc. Do I think I'll ever use that again from what people have said? No, but I just had to learn a list of facts, and hopefully they come up in the exam. And thanks to the great guidance of good old Adam Owen, managed to work my way through that. And yeah, as you say, rightly passed last week, which was exciting.
Amazing. And what's your next one?
I think we're going to go down RO5.
That one's not too bad. It's a bit more exciting.
Yeah, it would be nice to do something that I can practically use going forward.
Yeah, and actually, and it sort of makes sense. Like it's one of the ones that is a bit more, oh, okay, yeah, that's that, and that's that, rather than being sort of not like that, which some of the stuff are. That's very exciting, amazing that you've done it. It must feel really good to have that first one ticked off. And do you feel like that's maybe sort of really got you going now?
Yeah, because it's been a long time since I've done an exam, so I think I know that I can generally pass them okay. But actually sitting one for probably the first time in 10 years was a little intimidating, going, oh no, I'm back to exams, pass, fail, etc. So yeah, I just want to just carry on and see how they go.
Yeah, amazing. And do you remember we obviously spoke that you obviously got to a point where you're like, I'm not very happy with my job, I'm not really enjoying it. But do you remember that actual moment where you were like, that's it, I'm changing career, I'm gonna do it? Do you remember that specific moment?
Yeah, so I was sat in a Premier Inn in Vista, probably about 2019. So for a bit of context, I was listening to a podcast recently, and there was the guest was, I wrote it down here, Gretchen Rubin, and she talked about the concept of people in careers drifting. So I felt like I drifted my way through my whole career. And she talks about drifting being a concept of not making purposeful choices, but choices that are there at the time. She doesn't say it's a bad thing. It's just you get offered a job, you take it. You want a promotion, you go and get one. But you're just doing that because that's what's there in front of you. And I think I got to my latest role probably 2 years ago, and it was in logistics and supply chain. And I was working with a lot of really well-established professionals in there who knew their stuff. Some of the guys that I was kind of doing my role with had actually been working longer than I'd been alive, which is a terrifying concept. And so I went to see a career coach. I thought I was lacking in confidence. But it turns out that after the 6 sessions we had, we kind of went through it all, and she turned around to me and she went, Kate, you're not lacking in confidence. You're just not in a career that's right for you. you've got all these values that you want, so helping people, making a difference, kind of wanting to enjoy it. And actually, if you look at what you're doing now, you're not going to get that, even if you go and change roles in a same industry, similar role, different industry, same role. And I kind of gone, oh, not really sure what to do with that, because you spend however long working your way up to get your career, and for someone to sit down and go, yeah, it's not that you lack confidence, you're just not in the right job. And so that was kind of the turning point for me. But I didn't do a lot with it for 12 months because I was just a bit more in shock and I was in a comfortable job. But that really sowed the seed of, actually, I don't want to do what I'm doing now for the next 30 years. And actually sitting talking to somebody about it who's completely impartial, she's also telling me that it's probably not something I want to be doing for the next 30 years. So it was kind of like, then drove home with this revelation of, oh no, I need to change careers at some point because this really isn't the one for me.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's really interesting you went to a career coach, because probably a year ago it's something I'd never heard of, but in the last year I've just seen them all over the place. I just see career coaches all the time, and I have always wondered how much of a difference it would make. So I guess you're the prime example. It can make a very big difference.
Yeah, it's interesting. You go in talking about one thing. So, for want of a better thing, I had imposter syndrome. I was like, why am I here? Why are people going to listen to me? And it very quickly kind of, they're great at asking questions, and you just get them kind of jogging all those thought processes in your brain, and you come up with your own conclusion. So you know it deep down anyway. They're just, I suppose, making it really obvious for you. And I'd probably known that I wasn't in a career that I wanted to do, but to hear myself saying it, someone replay it back and then go, yeah, you might want to change, was a bit of a revelation.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And what would you say, if anyone's listening and they're thinking about maybe changing career, what tips would you give them? Because obviously, like you said, it's a huge deal, and to sometimes start again is huge. So what would you say to them?
Yeah, it's a great question because there's so many avenues you could go with, kind of hints and tips. But I suppose for me, it's around having that support network to let you do it. So, like my other half, Richard, he's got the patience of a saint, and he's listened to me talk about wanting to change career for donkey's years now. But he's now actively encouraging me to do it. And when I have those moments of ups and downs, he's there kind of to cheer on the successes and kind of pick me up when you're on that emotional roller coaster, because it's been pretty bumpy. Like some days you're high as a kite going, this is brilliant, I'm so glad I made this career. And the next day you haven't had any hits off CVs, job applications, you're like, oh my God, is this the right thing to do? And so with kind of like friends and family, they've all been there for me. But equally, I've had like from my old role, kind of great colleagues I'd call friends now that are there that just tell me as it is. So I'm kind of like, am I making a mistake? And they'll just turn around and be like, hey, shut up, you know you're doing the right thing. Just crack on with it. So I think it's that range of people that you have that are kind of within your network that you can talk to, who will, some people tell you the truth because, well, your friends and family are probably going to butter it up slightly, but people there to support you emotionally as well. So that's probably the key thing for me. I couldn't have done it on my own, but with those great people surrounding me, I've been able to kind of do it in a fun, positive way rather than it being a bit of a kind of difficult experience.
Yeah, amazing. And I thought this was a really interesting question, so I'm really interested to see what you say. What transferable skills have you picked up in your old career that you think are now useful in financial planning?
Yeah, you have to take this with my naive newness into this industry. But I think what I've done previously, so I've worked in procurement, supply chain, and my latest role was something called a cost transformation program manager, which is a mouthful in itself, but ultimately project manager type role to save money. Um, and actually, that whole process of engaging with new people, so I'd go across the business to different stakeholders. I'd have to identify what their current problems were, come up with solutions to those current problems, and then implement that new way of working, which to me doesn't seem too dissimilar to what you do in a financial planning sense of you'd meet a new client, you'd understand what their current finances are, you'd go through a process with them to work out where they wanted to get to, and then go away and implement that and keep reviewing. So I think kind of that process and those people skills, even though it's a completely different industry, completely different technical skills, are quite transferable in that way of thinking and that mentality.
Yeah, definitely. No, I couldn't agree more. It's obviously there's always going to be the when you hone in and you look at this, it's going to be different, but the overall picture and the sort of timeline, if you like, and the job you got to do, yeah, amazing. I love looking at things like transferable skills of people and jobs. So I speak to loads of people that say, "Oh, I just couldn't do anything else because I've never done anything else." I think, well, actually, if you stop for a second and look at the things you take from your role and the things you do on a day to day, I bet there is skills there that you could move somewhere else.
Yeah,
So
I think career changers probably undersell themselves to a point that they think that they don't have anything to offer new roles. But actually, you're right, technical skills, no. Do I know anything about financial services, financial planning, and the technicalities? Absolutely not. But do I know how to have a conversation with somebody, tailor my style, work with them, kind of convince them to do different things, change processes, change ways of working? Yeah, and I think that is really applicable to probably the majority of jobs. So you're absolutely spot on. I think looking at those skills that you do have and kind of looking at them with a fresh pair of eyes of how they could be applicable, I think is a kind of a must for any career changer.
yeah, definitely. And I know that you've been using video as a tool to speak to prospective employers. How have you found this? What has it been like? Tell us about this because I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, so Video Ask has got me a job. So I
Amazing.
courtesy of Adam on Next Gen, he suggested using either I think Video Ask or is it Bonbon, which is 30 to 60-second like video introduction of yourself rather than necessarily the standard email. So I spent some good time researching local companies. And then just recorded me introducing myself, who I am, why I'm career changing, a little bit about why I was interested in their business. And I must have done, I don't know, probably getting on for 50 of them. So I felt like I spanned the local West Midlands financial planning network. But Steve Wilson, financial planning, he actually responded back to one of them. The next thing I know, I had a telephone interview with Hannah, his head of operations. A week later, I was in the office and I start on the 7th of June. So I think I can really say I've career changed.
Oh, that's amazing. How exciting is that? And I guess when you sent the video,
Yeah.
did you send your CV along with it? Did you? No.
No. And I think I didn't want to be so bold, I think,
Right.
for a job because ultimately who am I versus everybody else? But for me, it was the purpose was around networking and kind of getting a feel for what was going on in the West Midlands in terms of financial planning, and asking people who have got great experience about what they want. Because I think the difference for me in this industry versus where I've come from is it's a lot of small businesses. It's not a big corporate machine where actually you can employ somebody, their salary doesn't particularly matter. Like it's an investment in time for a small business. So it was for me important to try and work out what I could offer a small company and what they get in return. And so I spent quite a few of those conversations I had with different people who responded, just kind of going, okay, you're a business owner. What would you want from somebody coming into the profession, or what would you want to see, or kind of what are your plans? And like naturally, that conversation comes up. So I think it was just fortunate that actually they didn't have a job that they'd advertised, but they were looking for people, and my little video popped into the inbox at the right time, right place, right time, so to speak.
That's amazing. That is, it's so just brilliant. Yeah, that's so exciting. And what's the plan now? Do you think you're going to go in and do sort of like the power planning route, the internal advisor? What's the plan?
So I'm starting off in an administration role, but they've been super supportive in kind of talking through moving into power planning and then advising. So, as I say, it's small business, small firm, great group of people. Met them all seem fantastic and super nice. So I'm just going to see how it goes. It'll be what it will be, and it's just the start of my journey, and I'm just kind of taking it as it comes. It's nice to be heading in a direction that isn't what I was doing previously. So I'm just going to relax into it and see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting 'cause obviously you've come into Next Gen, which is there's such an amazing community and it's so exciting and it's very forward thinking and things like that. And I've sort of seen that side of things and maybe like you, well, to be fair, you said you spoke to some of the advisors, maybe the older generation and maybe do things a little bit differently, works for them, but it is maybe a bit more old fashioned. What do you think about the future of financial planning? Are you excited? Do you see it? What do you see it looking like? What do you think's to come?
I think it's massively exciting. And I say this from a position going, I only know Next Gen. Like, I've had a great financial planner who introduced me to Next Gen, who then have been like so open and welcoming. Like, I think James Aristotle, he spent a day with me. And he's been kind of like championing my career transition and keeping abreast of how things have kind of been going. But I think if this is just that small segment of what financial planning could be, if the rest of the market is that, I suppose, typical take your money, sort out whatever funds or whatever your pensions are going into, I think the expansion of a well-being proposition, kind of a real holistic life planning into kind of the more the mainstream of what financial planning could be, it's got to be a positive thing. I think coming from the role that I've just kind of left, that talk about mental well-being and physical well-being is huge. So why can't financial well-being kind of sit alongside of that? It's probably causing a lot of people's mental challenges kind of in the workplace. So how do you kind of bring that to, I suppose, the masses in terms of that corporate offering? So yeah, and I think it's great to see kind of the likes of you. I think you started this, didn't you? Probably just as I joined, so kind of that real championing of, I think, diversity and how it can be done. So I think it's a kind of a massive opportunity for the whole industry to kind of shift into a slightly different direction that can only be good for the client and for the industry itself.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And especially you say about like financial well-being and stuff like that. I always say like money just completely changes your life if you know how to work with it, if someone helps you and sort of you take control of it, and it can affect you so much, money and finances. So I think, like you said, if we can go down this direction and have more of that in the world of finance, it'd be amazing.
I got a financial planner because I wanted to make my money work for me because I hated my job and wanted to retire early. And then it's flipped that into actually you can go and get a job that is going to make you happier and more content in the long run. So even just that kind of nuggets of advice can change your mentality. So I can certainly see the benefits and kind of getting people to think in a slightly different way.
Yeah, that's so interesting. You say you wanted to go because you didn't like your job and you wanted to retire early.
I wanted the money to work for me, so my pensions could get kind of not be put in the bog standard normal fund that they go in, so they could grow more, so I could have a bigger pension pot, so I could retire early to stop doing what I was doing because I didn't like it that much. So it turned itself on its head.
Oh, totally. It just shows you what else can come from it when you sit down and have a look at it. That's brilliant. So, and we obviously talked that you have joined the Next Gen community. How useful for you has that been, being part of a community like that? Because I always say it's just invaluable.
Yeah, I think that's the best word for it. Utterly invaluable. Like doing my RO1 with Adam has been fantastic. met a whole load of great people. I think as I spoke to you, kind of within the first couple of weeks, and kind of give me that inspiration that actually there is this kind of community, they're doing things differently. Everybody has been fantastic. People have given up their time left, right, and centre just to chat through how amazing the industry is, but also give me that confidence that I can succeed in it. So, quite frankly, without it, I'm not sure I would have kind of made the progress and kind of the transition as quickly as I have done. So, yeah, absolutely invaluable.
Yeah, it is. Yes, in so many ways it is just, and I would also say for all different people. So for like you, career changing, me for like a good few years into my career, but still trying to work things out and find the path I want to go down. I think it's just great for anyone.
You just have to log on and see kind of the interactions that different people are having and sharing knowledge and advice with each other. Kind of, I haven't seen that in my previous industry. Kind of that openness and that, I suppose, desire for everybody to succeed in what they're doing. So I think it's just a fantastic group of people doing fantastic things for the industry and for each other.
Yeah, it's so nice. And have you got any sort of resources, anything like that you can recommend being useful for anyone who wants to change career? Anything, but making a plan, anything like that?
Yeah, I think in terms of the actual, once you've made that decision, I think it's me very much around kind of planning my day into making it a career changing kind of process. So, what was I going to do from a CV point of view? Who was I going to try and network with? What was I going to study to kind of really anchor myself back into? I'm changing careers, and actually, it's my job now to change careers. I've been a little bit fortunate that I've been on gardening leave rather than to have to work for over that kind of notice period. But I think it'd be quite easy to get into just I'm going to sit in front of the TV and watch Netflix and chill, to coin a phrase. So I think for me, it's really kind of making sure that you are setting a bit of a regimented process in how you're going to do it. Otherwise, I say it can fall down the priority order quite quickly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you were sort of talking about it. Is I can imagine it is really easy to just think, oh, actually, I've got a bit of time off now. Should I just sort of kick back and relax and not really do anything? But I suppose you always need to be taking steps towards something.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. If you're doing something, you're making a step. You might not necessarily see an action out of it, but everything you do is moving closer to the goal. You don't necessarily know when you're going to achieve that goal, but if you're being really proactive, and I networked, and as much as people dislike the phrase networking, actually it really was invaluable just to go and talk to people, even for half an hour, even career changers, how they were doing it, well-established financial planners on what their thoughts were. Like, you name it, I spoke to those, everybody felt like, but it just gave me that boost and that bit more confidence to push forward, go and study a bit more, go and record some video asks, send those through to the next group of people. So don't get me wrong, it's not like work. I've just gone, woohoo, a career changed, here's a job. It does take a bit of hard work, but I think if you've got that perseverance and kind of that mentality, you can kind of hopefully make that transition a little bit easier.
Yeah, and I think also every conversation, normally most people are warmer to it than you think they're going to be. Like, I've messaged loads of random people and said, can I have a virtual coffee with you, for the most random reasons, and I'm yet to have anyone say no. I think most people, if they can help, they will.
Yeah, and I think it's human nature, isn't it? I had a boss that always said people like to talk about themselves, which sounds a little bit weird, but actually people want to share their story because they hope that their story can help you achieve what you're trying to achieve. And I think that's just kind of a nice thing, and kind of really noticeable within kind of certainly next gen and kind of the wider industries, that people are so welcoming and willing to share.
Yeah, 100%. So we are coming to the end now, but I would like to ask you, Kate, for a book or podcast recommendation that our audience will find inspiring. Have you got something for us?
I have got something for you. So I would recommend Feel Better, Live More with Dr. Ron.
And it's a podcast, isn't it? I think I've heard of this one.
So he does some absolutely amazing conversations. They're quite long, so they're 90 minutes to 2 hours. But I love to listen to them when I'm running or cycling. And he focuses on such a broad range of topics on kind of mental and physical well-being. So I wrote a few down here. So he did one recently on how to achieve your goals effortlessly. So interviewed a guy that said or was talking about how to easily achieve your goals with the path of least resistance, which was just fascinating. There was another one on understanding your personality and how that makes your career easier. So again, kind of, they're just really like nice listens, and you can take away some really interesting hints and tips. So certainly a thumbs up from me on that one.
Yeah, I'm going to go and have a listen to that one. And in all honesty, I think I've seen it and have seen that it's sort of 90 minutes long and maybe been a bit like, oh, I'm not sure. But I need to pin down and listen to it because I definitely don't cycle for 90 minutes to listen to it. So I'm going to have to find some other time.
Like, this is the thing, like people have lost their car time. I would put one on, go commuting to work and from work and listen to half on the way there, half on the way back. But yeah, definitely worth a listen. And like they're easy to pick up again if you like don't listen to it all in one go.
Yeah, definitely. Amazing. Thank you, Kate. That was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. And there was so many useful tips in there. So thank you very much.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Amazing. So, of course, thank you guys in our audience for watching. On next week's show, we'll have more inspiring women in the world of finance. And please do sign up for the mailing list to keep up to date with previous videos and who's coming up next, all those sorts of things. And yeah, have a lovely weekend. Thank you all for watching.